Hi and welcome to Reddit Confessions. Today's story is a quiet storm, one that starts with a smile and ends with silence that screams louder than any fight ever could. She didn't notice me at first. She was too busy laughing. That fake, over-the-top laugh she always does when she's trying to impress someone. The way she tilts her head back a little too far, the hand on the chest, the way her eyes dart around the room to see who's watching. I used to think it was charming. I don't anymore. I stood there by the entrance, unnoticed, while the string quartet played something elegant and pretentious. Waiters floated past me with champagne. The lights were warm, golden, expensive-looking. And there she was, glowing in a dress I'd never seen before. It was red. She told me she hated red. I guess she doesn't anymore. I watched her lean in toward him, tall, younger, tan. I recognized his face from LinkedIn. The strategic partnerships guy she kept mentioning. The one with the insane work ethic and big ideas. The one I wasn't supposed to worry about. The one she said was married. He was, and I knew that because I was standing next to his wife. Reese. I didn't know her long. We weren't friends. We didn't bond over coffee or vent to each other on the phone. But we shared something deeper than small talk. We shared betrayal. Reese reached for my hand as we walked in together. Not romantically, not for show, but because both of us were shaking. And when I stopped just a few feet from the party center, she knew what I was about to do. Absolutely nothing. No shouting. No chaos. No confrontation. Just presence. Sometimes showing up is the loudest thing you can do. And that's when Lena saw me. Her face didn't fall. Collapsed. Like a building that had been hollowed out for years and finally gave in. Her eyes went wide, then glassy. Her lips parted like she was about to speak, but nothing came out. Just silence. I smiled. Not out of pettiness. Not because I was proud, but because I finally felt still. After months of wondering, spiraling, doubting myself, I felt still. Her lover, Cole, turned confused. He didn't know who I was. But when he saw Reese, the blood drained from his face so fast I thought he'd collapse. It was beautiful in a tragic kind of way. And the best part? I didn't say a word, because everything that needed to be said was already written across their faces. Now, I know this probably sounds like the ending, like some cold, satisfying moment of justice, but it wasn't the end. It was the start. Because what led up to that night and what came after was far more twisted than I could have ever imagined. And it started with a missing toothbrush. I know it sounds dumb, but that's how it began. Not with lipstick on a collar. Not with some dramatic phone call. Just a missing toothbrush. It was a Tuesday morning, about 6 weeks before the gala. Lena had already left for her spin class, one of the 5 hobbies she'd picked up that year and conveniently kept her out of the house. I was getting ready for work when I noticed my backup toothbrush. The one I keep in the drawer, still in the packaging, was gone. Now, that might not seem like a big deal to anyone else. But in our house, Lena has this weird rule about clutter. She hates it. She's always throwing out extras. So I figured she tossed it without asking. Annoying but normal. I texted her, "Hey, did you throw out the blue toothbrush from the drawer?" No response. Not even a read receipt. That was weird too. By noon, I forgot about it. Life kept moving. I had work meetings, a terrible tuna sandwich, and a jammed printer that I somehow got blamed for. Just another Tuesday in IT. But that night, something else happened. Lena came home late. Not unusual. But this time, her energy was off. She kissed me on the cheek like usual. Quick, cold, dismissive, then went straight to the shower. I heard her muttering under her breath in the bathroom. I couldn't catch the words. But the tone? It wasn't relaxing bath after a long day tone. It was panicked, frantic. When she finally came out, wrapped in a towel, she looked surprised to see me still awake. "Long day?" I asked. She nodded too fast. "Yeah, just a lot of meetings." I wanted to ask more. I wanted to say, "Did you throw out my toothbrush?" But the words felt ridiculous now, so I let it go. Again. The next morning, I opened the bathroom drawer. The toothbrush was back. But it was opened. Used. Wet. My stomach turned. I'm not proud of what I did next, but I felt something wasn't right. I took it and placed it in a Ziploc bag, taped it shut, threw it in the garage freezer. Why? I don't know. Instinct? Desperation? Some pathetic attempt at holding onto something real in a life that was starting to feel suspiciously fake. 2 days later, I found a hotel keycard in her coat pocket. That was the moment the dam cracked. The coat was draped over a kitchen chair, sloppier than usual. Lena was upstairs on a video call, probably networking with another donor or fake laughing at some inside joke I wasn't allowed in on. I was about to hang it when the card slid out of the side pocket. It was branded a mid-range hotel downtown. Not the kind of place we'd ever stay. Not the kind of place she'd use for a client dinner. I held it in my palm like it was radioactive. I didn't even know what I was looking for. Evidence? An address? Something to scream at me, "This is what you feared." But there was no note, no receipt, just the cold silence of that keycard. I put it back, not because I was okay with it, but because I needed time. Proof, not a hunch. So I started watching her closely. That week, Lena claimed she had a conference. I offered to go with her. She said no. "It's small, boring. You'd hate it." She said it with that sharp smile, the kind she uses when she wants to end a conversation. So I didn't argue. Instead, I followed her. I took a half day, parked a block away from the hotel printed on the keycard, sat in my car, palms sweaty, feeling like a stalker in my own marriage. I watched her walk in at 6:13 p.m. in a navy dress I'd never seen before. And at 6:17 I saw him, tall, tan, smiling like he owned the world. He placed a hand on her lower back as they disappeared into the elevator together. That was it. No denials, no doubts, just truth, delivered in silence and steel and hotel lobby air freshener. But I still didn't confront her. Not yet, because somewhere inside the mess of rage and heartbreak, a voice whispered something I hadn't felt in years. Don't just react. Make it count. So I reached out to Reese. And what she told me made everything worse. I expected a stiff handshake, maybe some awkward small talk. But when Reese opened her front door, she didn't even blink, just stepped aside and said, "You might want to sit down." Her house was clean in that unsettling way. No clutter, no warmth, no pictures on the walls. The kind of house that looks like it's waiting to be sold, not lived in. She handed me a glass of water and motioned to the kitchen table. I sat down. My hands were already shaking. She dropped her phone on the table between us. It was unlocked. I didn't ask for anything. She just opened her photo gallery and slid it toward me. "This was last Thursday," she said flatly. "The day he said he was in Phoenix for a product launch." I looked. The photo showed Cole standing outside the same hotel I had followed Lena to. Same navy dress. Same smug expression. Only this time he was holding her hand. He wasn't touching her like someone having a fling. He was holding her hand like she was his future. Reese tapped to the next photo. Then the next. Then the next. Each one worse than the last. Screenshots of messages. Travel confirmations. Shared rides. One picture even showed Lena in the background of a selfie Cole had posted to his work friend's only Instagram story. She was behind him at the bar, sipping something in a martini glass, smiling like she was exactly where she belonged. I felt like I was watching a version of my wife I'd never met before. One who laughed easier, dressed differently, smiled wider, and most painfully, looked happier than she ever did with me. Reese finally spoke again. Her voice was colder this time. I didn't want to believe it either, but this has been going on for over 5 months. 5 months. I stared at the photos again, willing them to become fake. Photoshop. AI. Some elaborate joke. But they didn't change. And neither did the sick feeling in my stomach. Reese leaned back and looked at me in a way that felt like she already knew what I was going to ask. "You still sleeping in the same bed?" she asked softly. I nodded. "Still packing her lunch?" Another nod. She smiled, but there was nothing kind in it. "They always come home to us when they're tired, when the fantasy wears off for the night." I wanted to cry. I didn't. I wish I had. Maybe it would have released something. Instead, I sat there blinking, like a broken notification that wouldn't shut off. Then Reese said something I'll never forget. I don't want revenge. That's not what this is. But I also won't let them keep humiliating us. So, are you willing to help me interrupt their little fairy tale? That's when it all started. The plan. The build-up to the night Lena would finally learn that I wasn't as clueless as she believed. That I wasn't just the background character in her shiny new romance. That I had eyes, and dignity, and options. Reese pulled out a red envelope from a drawer and tossed it in front of me. Corporate gala. Big event. Both of them will be there. And I'm on the guest list. I looked at her. So you're thinking, what? Confront them? No, she said. We walk in arm. You in a tux. Me in heels. We don't yell. We don't cry. We don't even look angry. We smile. We show up. And we take the air out of their fantasy without even raising our voices. It was theatrical. Almost insane. But something about it made perfect sense. And I said yes. Not because I wanted to punish Lena, but because I finally wanted her to see me. Really see me. And the closer we got to that night, the more I realized she never truly had. The week leading up to the gala felt like I was living inside a glass box, watching everything happen around me while pretending I wasn't breaking apart. Lena carried on like usual, or at least she tried to. But I noticed things. Small things. Changes. She was too careful with her phone now. Too rehearsed with her explanations. She talked less. Smiled more. Like someone keeping a secret that gave her power. And I gave her nothing back. I didn't ask questions. Didn't pick fights. I became the perfect shadow version of myself. Agreeable, forgettable, quiet. The less I reacted, the more she relaxed. She thought she had me fooled again. But I wasn't sleeping anymore. I was listening, watching, planning. Reese and I stayed in contact every day. She was meticulous. She had this unnerving calm about her, like someone who had already cried her last tear months ago. We coordinated everything. The arrival time, the car, the outfits, even the playlist in the limo, so it looked authentic when we stepped out laughing like friends on the best night of their lives. Reese had one condition. No drama. Whatever happens, she told me on the phone, you keep your mouth shut. You do not give them a scene. You give them silence, because silence makes people fill in the blanks. It's louder than rage. I agreed. But the night before the gala, something happened I didn't expect. Lena initiated intimacy. It had been weeks, maybe longer. I'd stopped counting. But that night, she climbed into bed in a silk robe I'd never seen before and whispered, "Let's not think about work tonight." I froze. Not because I wasn't tempted, I was, desperately. But because the man inside me, the part that still believed in something sacred, felt sick. She was using me to cover her tracks, reset the clock, wash away her guilt with some lazy, middle-of-the-night performance. I kissed her forehead, pulled her close and said, "Not tonight. I'm exhausted." She didn't argue. She just rolled away and went to sleep. And I laid there in the dark, wondering how many times I'd confused manipulation for affection. The next day was surreal. I went to work, answered emails, sat in pointless Zoom calls where no one made eye contact. At lunch, I got a message from Lena. "Don't forget about tonight. Haircut, fresh shirt?" She even added a smiley face. I stared at it for a while. Then I responded, "Wouldn't miss it." At 5:45 p.m. I met Reese outside the gala venue. She looked stunning. Not in a flashy, obvious way, but in that deadly calm confidence that comes from being completely done with someone else's lies. She gave me a once-over and nodded. "You clean up better than I expected." "Thanks," I replied. "You ready?" "Born ready." We didn't walk in holding hands. We didn't pose for pictures. We just walked in together. And that alone was enough. The moment we stepped into the ballroom, the temperature shifted. Conversations stumbled. Eyes followed us. And then, like a movie scene timed to perfection, Lena looked up from the champagne table and saw me. Saw us. She blinked. Once. twice, like her brain couldn't compute what was happening. Then came the moment I had played over in my head for weeks, her expression crumpling, just slightly, before she forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. But I wasn't looking at her. I was watching him. Cole was across the room, chatting with a group of donors. He turned, noticed the shift in the room, and when he saw me beside Reese, he flinched. Physically, as if someone had slapped him. And then, the real twist. Reese didn't just stand there. She walked right up to him, cool as ever, kissed his cheek and said, "So good to see you again, Cole. You've met Clyde, haven't you?" Cole stuttered. Of course you have," she said, before turning on her heel and pulling me toward the bar. I had never seen someone weaponize poise like that. And Lena? She hadn't moved, still standing by the champagne, red-faced, holding a glass that trembled in her hand like a bomb waiting to go off. But she didn't come to me. She didn't call my name. She just watched. And that's when I realized she knew. Not about the toothbrush, or the hotel, or the keycard. But she knew she'd lost something. Something that wouldn't beg to be fixed this time. Me. I didn't expect her to come to me. I figured she'd avoid it. Play it cool, pretend she didn't care. Keep sipping her drink until we all just disappeared into the crowd. But Lena's always been more pride than strategy. And when pride feels cornered, it doesn't run. It lunges. It was about 20 minutes after Reese and I made our entrance. We were standing near the bar, having the most bizarre conversation about bourbon labels and fake laughs from nearby guests when I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned, and there she was, Lena. Her face looked like it hadn't decided on an emotion yet. Half smile, half terror. Her eyes darted between Reese and me, her lips parting to speak before words fully formed. "Clyde," she said, too loud. "Can we talk?" I glanced at Reese. She gave me a subtle nod. It was my moment now. "Sure," I said. Lena turned and walked quickly through the side doors, her heels clicking too fast against the marble floor. I followed, the air feeling heavier with every step. She didn't stop until we reached a dim, quiet hallway near the bathrooms. Empty, silent, far from the sound of jazz and small talk. She spun around, her arms crossed, already breathing hard. "What the hell are you doing?" she hissed. I raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "Don't play dumb, Clyde. Showing up here, with her?" Her voice cracked slightly on her, and I finally saw it. The panic underneath the anger. The unraveling. "That's Reese," I said flatly. "Cole's wife. You remember Cole, right?" She blinked. Her mouth opened again. 1,000 words probably lined up behind her teeth, waiting to fire. But instead, she laughed. Quietly, bitterly. "So what? Is this some kind of pathetic revenge stunt?" "No," I said calmly. "It's not revenge. It's exposure. Yours." That landed. For a second, she stood perfectly still. Then she turned away, gripping the edge of a marble pillar like it was holding her up. Her voice dropped. "I didn't mean for this to happen." I wanted to scream at her. Didn't mean? What does that even mean? Like she tripped and fell into his hotel room? But I stayed quiet. I wanted to hear the rest of the lie. I needed to. Lena turned back around. Her voice was soft now. Manipulative. Familiar. "Clyde, he didn't mean anything. It was stupid. I felt invisible. We stopped talking. You were always so distant." There it was. The script. The rerun I'd seen in every online confession. Every story of infidelity dressed up as emotional confusion. Blame shifting dressed as honesty. She was flipping it all back on me. I let her continue. "I didn't plan it," she whispered, stepping closer. "I just wanted to feel something. And then, it got complicated. But I didn't leave. I came home. I stayed with you." "That's supposed to make it better?" I asked. She frowned. "I'm trying to fix it. Now?" I said, not hiding the laugh that slipped out. "You're trying to fix it now? After the hotels? After the toothbrush? After you lied every single day for half a year?" Her head jerked up. Toothbrush. There it was. A mistake. She didn't know I'd noticed that. I saw her face twitch, the mental scramble beginning, and she realized she'd just confirmed more than she meant to. I stepped closer. I know everything, Lena. I know more than you think. I know about the lunches you said were fundraisers, the overnight client meetings, the Instagram stories you didn't think I'd ever see. She didn't deny it. She just stood there, staring through me like her brain was playing catch-up and losing the race. And then, in one last desperate swing, she reached for the only weapon she had left. "I'll quit everything," she said. "I'll block him. I'll go to therapy. We can fix this. You and me." I didn't respond right away, because the thing is, I wanted to believe her. That's the messed up part. Even after everything, some exhausted, half-shattered part of me still wanted this to not be real. Still wanted to rewind. Still wanted to pretend she hadn't torched everything just to feel interesting. But I couldn't do it. Not anymore. So I leaned in close, just enough that she had to look me in the eyes. "You already chose, Lena. You just didn't think I'd walk away." And then I left her standing in the hallway, alone, surrounded by everything she'd pretended to be. I expected silence. After walking away from her in that hallway, after telling her, maybe for the first time in our entire marriage, that I wasn't coming back, I expected her to disappear. I assumed she'd crawl into her carefully curated life, spin the story to make herself the victim, and maybe, just maybe, convince herself none of it was her fault. But that's not what happened. Instead, she doubled down. 2 days after the gala, she showed up at my office parking lot. I was coming back from a sandwich run, holding a Diet Coke and a soggy BLT, when I saw her car, parked across from mine. Engine off. Windows rolled halfway down. She was staring straight ahead, both hands on the steering wheel like she'd been rehearsing something and couldn't get out of the car until it was perfect. When she spotted me, she opened the door, stepped out slowly, and, I'll give her credit, didn't cry right away. She waited until I walked past her, pretending not to see her, before saying, "Clyde, please." I stopped, not because I wanted to, because my legs froze. She looked different, pale, hollowed out. The makeup was minimal, the jewelry gone. She wasn't Gala Lena anymore. She was just raw. "I know I hurt you," she started, voice shaking. "I know I destroyed something, but I haven't slept since that night. I've thought about everything, every word, every lie, and I can't let this end without saying it." I stared at her, waiting for the it. "I loved you, Clyde," she whispered. "I still do, but somewhere along the way, I started chasing something that wasn't real. Cole was never real. He was a mirror reflecting who I thought I wanted to be, not who I am. You were always real, and I got scared of that." She said it like it was profound, like self-awareness made up for months of betrayal. I didn't speak, so she kept going. "I'll do anything. Counseling. A reset. I'll quit work. Delete my accounts. Whatever you need. I just need one more chance." And there it was, the moment I dreamed about. The apology. The desperation. The offer to fix it. I should have felt victorious. But instead, I felt like someone had handed me a trophy at a funeral. There was a time I would have said yes. A time I would have grabbed onto her words like a life raft. But now, I wasn't drowning anymore. I was floating in the wreckage. Alone, yes, but breathing. I looked at her for a long moment. And then, without blinking, I said, "Do you remember our 10th anniversary?" She paused. "Of course I do." "What did we do?" Silence. I saw it in her eyes, the panic, the gears turning. Trying to recall. Trying to pull together details she thought would save her. We went to the coast. That bed and breakfast with the board games in the lobby. We had that terrible clam chowder, remember? I shook my head. That was our 8th. Our 10th was the night you said you had a client dinner and left me alone eating Chinese food out of a takeout box. That was the same night you were at Cole's hotel. Her face cracked. I wasn't angry when I said it. I didn't raise my voice. But I could feel how heavy the words landed. Her knees buckled just slightly, and for a second, I thought she might actually collapse. But she didn't. Instead, she took a deep breath, wiped her eyes, and whispered, I didn't remember because I've been living in a fog for so long. I know that's not an excuse. I hate what I became. You didn't become it, I said. You chose it, over and over again. And then I walked past her. This time I didn't look back. But the second I sat in my car, I shook. Because the truth is, part of me still wanted to believe her. Still wanted to believe there was a version of her that could be saved, and a version of me worth staying for. But sometimes, healing means saying no to the thing you want most, just because it's the thing that hurt you worst. That night, I didn't cry. I wrote. I sat down with every screenshot, every message, every lie I had documented, and I drafted the full truth. Not for revenge, not for exposure, but for me, for clarity, for closure. And when I emailed it to myself under the subject line, "The Last Lie," I knew I was done chasing the ghost of the woman I married. 3 days passed after the parking lot conversation. I didn't block her number. I didn't answer it either. I just let the texts roll in like low waves against a dock. Persistent, quiet, ultimately powerless. Then, on the 4th day, something changed. It started with a call from my cousin Marla. "You okay?" she asked. I mean, define okay. "I just saw Lena's post. On Facebook. Are you guys separated?" I felt the blood drain from my face. I hadn't told anyone yet. Not family, not coworkers. I was still navigating the collapse in silence, carefully choosing what to reveal and what to keep buried. "What post? You didn't see it?" "No," Marla sighed. "You might want to log in." I hadn't opened Facebook in weeks, maybe months. But now, hands suddenly slick with sweat, I opened the app and typed her name. There it was. A long, polished post, complete with a filtered black and white photo of us from 5 years ago. Her head on my shoulder, both of us smiling in that practiced, magazine ad way. The caption started like a eulogy. "This isn't easy to write. But sometimes love gets lost in the spaces between who we were and who we became." After a lot of tears, conversations, and reflection, Clyde and I have decided to take some time apart to heal, grow, and rediscover ourselves individually. There is no hate, only lessons. Please respect our privacy as we move forward with grace. With grace. I stared at that line like it was a punch to the chest. There was no mention of Cole, no mention of betrayal, just a sanitized version of events crafted to make her look mature, enlightened, and emotionally evolved, while I, the silent party, got painted as the other half of a mutual decision. The comments were pouring in. "You're so brave for sharing this. Sending love to you both. Wishing you healing and peace. You're handling this like such a queen." I wanted to scream, not because she lied, I'd come to expect that, but because people believed her. Because strangers were applauding her for her performance while I sat in a quiet apartment, surrounded by cardboard boxes, wondering how truth had become so fragile. That night, I drafted a response. I typed out every detail. The toothbrush, the hotel receipts, the Instagram screenshots, the whole rotten timeline. I was ready to post it, ready to tear down her curtain. But then I stopped. Not out of mercy, out of exhaustion. Because in that moment, I realized something chilling. If I posted the truth, she'd turn it into another performance. Another chance to look like the victim. Another excuse to control the narrative. And I didn't want to play anymore. So instead of hitting post, I did something no one expected. I deleted my Facebook, then my Instagram, then my LinkedIn, my Venmo history, my Amazon account, and everything else she had ever tagged, followed, shared, or used to track me. I didn't ghost her. I erased her access to me. The next morning, I emailed my boss, told him I needed a break. Unpaid, indefinite. He didn't ask questions, just told me to take care of myself. I booked a rental cabin 3 hours north, near a place I used to fish with my dad. No internet, spotty reception, quiet. When I left, I took only 2 things with me: a duffel bag of clothes, and the printed copy of the email I titled "The Last Lie." No messages, no goodbye, just absence. Because sometimes the only way to win against someone who lives for attention is to deny them your presence entirely. And up in that cabin, with nothing but trees, silence, and a dog-eared notebook. I felt something I hadn't in months. Peace. Until the knock on the door. Yes, a knock. I hadn't told anyone I was there, but someone had found me anyway. I didn't answer the door right away. For a second, I just stood there, frozen, staring at the handle like it might turn on its own. It was early morning. Gray light spilling through the trees, frost on the window, coffee half brewed. The kind of morning you don't expect anyone to find you. And yet, there it was. Another knock. This time softer, hesitant. I finally opened it. It wasn't Lena. It was Reese, wearing a coat too thin for the weather, holding a paper bag and a mug with steam still rising from it. Her eyes looked tired, but not broken. She didn't speak at first, just held out the bag. "Blueberry scone," she said. "Figured you probably forgot to eat." Again. I blinked, unsure what to say. "How did you even know I was here?" She shrugged. "You mentioned this place once. In passing." I remembered. I stepped aside. She walked in like she'd done it 100 times. Not like a guest, but like someone who knew how to exist in your silence without trying to fix it. We sat across from each other. No rush, no pressure. Just the smell of coffee and pine needles between us. After a while, she said, "She called me." I nodded. I figured. She wanted to know where you went. Said she was worried. But honestly, I don't think she was worried about you. I think she was worried about losing control of the story. I didn't reply. There wasn't much left to say. Reese looked at me for a long moment, then added, "I told her I didn't know," which was technically true. But even if I did, I wouldn't have told her. "Why?" I asked quietly. "Because you deserved peace before you got pulled back into her chaos." I looked down at the scone in front of me, unwrapped it, took a bite, tasted like everything I hadn't let myself enjoy for months. "So what now?" I asked. She shrugged. "Now you get to choose." That's what stuck with me. You get to choose. Not react. Not beg. Not fix someone who didn't want to be kept. Just choose. I stayed at the cabin for another week. Wrote pages I'll probably never show anyone. Hiked trails with no names. Listened to wind move through trees and thought, this is what life sounds like when no one's lying to you. And when I finally returned home, the apartment didn't feel like a ghost town anymore. Felt like a blank page. I got a new job. Something smaller, quieter, less corporate noise, more breathing room. I adopted a mutt named Cooper who chews furniture like it personally offended him. I started running. Not fast, not far, but enough to feel something shake loose inside me every time my feet hit the ground. As for Lena, she sent a letter. I didn't open it, because the truth is, some stories end not with a bang, but with silence that doesn't ache anymore. And Reese? Well, we still talk. Sometimes we meet up for coffee. Sometimes we just send each other the weirdest memes we can find at 1 a.m. We're not rushing into anything. We've both had enough of pretending something's whole when it's cracked down the middle. But there's something honest there. And maybe, just maybe, that's where all real stories begin. Thanks for listening. If you've ever experienced a moment that changed everything, whether it was a quiet truth or a dramatic revelation, tell us about it in the comments. What was your turning point? And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Reddit Confessions for more real, emotional stories just like this one. Until next time, choose peace over chaos. You always have that power.